I got a question more here. How did you do sponsorship and step work at the time?
We're talking about the start of NA. So I have to say that the start of NA was one meeting a week. I needed more than one meeting a week. So I still had a home group, a AA home group, which I went to regularly. My Danish sponsor was an AA, and basically most of what I got out of in my early recovery was AA orientated. So that when I did offer, after like maybe 8 months in the program, or 10 months maybe, when I started offering people some of the help that I'd had from my sponsor in California, who was a recovering cocaine addict, when I used what he taught me to help other people, they were basically AAs, and I don't remember having any NA sponsee at that time. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I had this crazy American from North Hollywood who was in Copenhagen. He was my first sponsor.
Sponsor.
And but I was so judgmental. And I made the big mistake of, the guy is a great trin sponsor, great step sponsor, but his private license is totally bananas. He's his own grandfather. His son banged his third wife and they got a kid together. Mm. So things were getting complicated. Because I knew this stuff and I felt like I was really judging off that. You know. So actually we just lost contact. I told you this thing.
Yeah, but maybe, what about you sponsoring?
It took years for me to really start to. I had one sponsee, but he died. So I thought, oh my God. And it took me years to really feel adequate enough to trust my way of sponsoring people instead of, because the best thing about he's my sponsor again now, is how simple he keeps it. And it's just really nice. But for me to really get serious with my sponsees, and people would ask me, and I always say, oh, I'd make up an excuse or something. I just didn't feel like I was, even though with a lot of years of clean time, I'm talking, over 10 years, for me anyway, that I was ready to take that responsibility. Mm. Now I love it. I like being a sponsor.
Yeah. Now, I'm a bit opposite, because I think when I've done the steps with my first sponsor and I could give to other people that were relatively new to the program, give them what I'd learned from my sponsor. I sponsored quite a lot of people, and sometimes it backfired on me. But I did that, I think, because I felt it was a good service. It's a long time ago, and things change, and people change. I'm now very much more reticent about becoming a sponsor for someone. I have certain criteria that have to be fulfilled, and if it's not fulfilled, then I'm honest enough to say that I don't think I can. As a consequence, I don't have very many sponsees, and you have quite a lot.
Well, I think I have 4 right now. But, you know, I was living in Oakland last year. Something came up with a sponsee about something here in Denmark, you know. And I felt uncomfortable. And I was talking to a man, and I had asked this. I had told this guy I didn't feel comfortable in our relationship, and I suggested he find another sponsor. Oh, did he get angry? Which I would have done too. And anyway, the guy I got the information was, you know, things don't go on my tempo. You know, and the rule that I learned, or what he told me, was never fire a sponsee. I can't do that. That's not up to me to decide. If they want to fire me, that's something else. You know, fire or just let me go. So I felt so guilty. So I wrote him back on the email and said, I explained my situation with my cancer, and I used that as a bad excuse. And would want to, you know, would he like to start working the steps again? And I don't think he really did. It was nice to get in touch with him and stuff like that. But, you know, I guess he's smarter than I am. You know, anyway, that was my experience. But today I enjoy being a sponsor, you know, I really enjoy that. It's like what Mickey says too, you know, we both have over 40 years together. We're not the same people.
No.
The fellowship isn't the same fellowship.
No.
The only thing that are the same is the steps and the traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and the rest of it is like, you know, I'm really grateful to this program. But thank God I'm not the same person I was.
Thank God. And thank God that tolerance and is not so necessary to have police, I mean NA police and NA soldiers anymore, because the fellowship won't take that anymore. Those times are gone, and all those problems we had then, I don't think it can come back again in Denmark. So no.
No, I don't. I agree with you 100%. I think the one thing I learned from these 24 principles of 12 steps and 12 traditions is I just have to learn how to get out of the way. If I can learn how to get out of the way, this loving God will take care of everything. When I try to blend and say my opinion, even though I want to be right, and I know I'm right, somehow it makes it's a waste of time about that, carrying the message.
Were there a time when you feel that NA no longer were for you? What brought you back, if there were?
For me, when I was spending a lot of time arguing about something that I felt very strongly about, which was getting the message out to addicts, drug addicts that were suffering, and I had so much. We had so many different opinions, which caused so much lack of serenity and lack of clear, orderly direction. Then I was thinking, well, let it all go, and I'll come back to it later when I'm not. My ego is not involved, or I'm not the front person. And that's very important to me, that ego is out of the picture totally in NA. It's like, so whenever I meet any ego, I step aside because I don't want to get run over by it. And so when that was happening, I was thinking, well, I can easily go back to AA and stay there until everything's comfortable again. I think when people started calling themselves addicts, and it was decided to call each other addicts, I think that was a great help for me, because I am an addict, and I might be an alcoholic, but I'm an addict. I'm not just an alcoholic, and it was really important to me, and I think the fellowship has got much stronger because of that.
Yeah.
Hmm? Do you still attend NA meetings? And if so, why? Do you get meets, still pay what attention? Pay attention for the newcomers.
Oh, that's what it's all about. I would even take it a little more step further. It's not just the newcomers, it's the people who've had a relapse. The newcomers, that's without saying, they always read that up at the meeting. I think people who have had a relapse, or more than one, it's natural, big deal. But I think they feel shamed by it sometimes. So the message that I like to send out is for newcomers and relapsers. The relapsers have a lot of experience. So they need a little more attention, a little more love. So they remember, I still go to meetings because I like the people who go to the meeting I go to. And
learn a lot by listening as well.
Yeah, sure.
When you've been clean for so long time, it's good to have that refreshing feel about going to a meeting and hearing people that are struggling with 90 days and things like that, and you can remember straight back to it, and you can feel exactly. I think it's a miracle when somebody has 90 days. I think it's just a miracle, and it gives me an awful lot, because I am still an addict, and I am just one. It's just one day at a time, and I still think that stinking thinking can easily come in. Hopefully, I have used and have work in tools. I have tools. Sorry, I forgot my English. I have tools that I can use that can save me from misery. But going to meetings keeps me fresh. And thank goodness I have Eric to encourage me to go to meetings, because I live out of town, so I can easily find an excuse not to go to a meeting.
Do you remember the first time you came to NA, the dates?
For me, the first time, it wasn't here in Aarhus. The first time I came to an NA meeting was May 1992.
Where?
In Lolland. It's a part of, it's an island in the south of Denmark.
Yeah.
It was this one close to that facility I was in at the time.
Okay.
Walking with a guy who listened to ZZ Top,
Yeah.
I still have contact with him, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was so nervous. Mm-hmm. That was a problem, because it was like, at this time I had, and the counselor kept saying, NA is not treatment, treatment's not NA. And I actually didn't know, because I thought it was sort of like the same, I know he told me. And what happened was, I was seeing people who I thought were giving me grades for written assignments at these NA meetings, people I looked up to because they had a longer clean time than 5 years. And I felt uncomfortable. It was just, they didn't know better either. The way the system was set up there, they were only doing what they thought best. But it made me uncomfortable, because the guy or girl who was my counselor, who I was supposed to be open and honest with, and I knew she was a ding-dong bell. I'd have to come and listen to, or whatever, share at this meeting, which I did not want, and I just lied. Higher power, yeah. Of course, because I wanted to get out of there. That was my goal. I mean, I had been there for some months, and I was like, I didn't think I could get any more from that treatment center. The thing is, what I've learned too, and I love treatment centers, I think it's a great job they do, but they get mixed up too. See, what they're doing is it's a business. And you heard me speak, NA's for free.
Mm.
So what they're doing is they're using something for free as a therapeutic tool. But if you quote the stuff that's in NA and bring it back to the treatment center, well, then they don't agree with it because they have a different approach as far as relationships with the opposite or the same sex, or when can you or shouldn't get into a relationship, all this kind of stuff. And they forget that that means that client's hearing two different things. They're hearing things when they go to the NA meeting, and then if they bring it back into the treatment center, but they can't do that. But the treatment center is using the NA meeting, but they're not. And if they bring that stuff into the NA meeting, well, then it just doesn't make any sense because there's no basis in our literature. I think it can confuse people. I don't think there's any malice in it. I think people just don't know. You know, they just want to be a part of. You know. So I think I worked in the treatment industry for years. Never had any problems. There were certain things that just didn't make sense because the people had heard it in NA and then thought that made more sense than what they were saying at the treatment center. So I think what's the advancement today is that people who work in treatment center and have an affiliation with Narcotics Anonymous are better to send out a more pristine message, a more clear message to their clients or patients or whatever about, like what Mickey said too, about how do you introduce yourself? Well, I don't go to an AA meeting and introduce myself as an addict out of respect for the fellowship. Right? If I go, I introduce myself as an alcoholic. But I don't go to an NA meeting and introduce myself as an addict alcoholic. I would never do that. I was judgmental before when people did that. So I think in this second or third generation of Narcotics Anonymous here in Denmark, and treatment centers are great, is that the people who work there are getting better at sending that clear message. It takes 5 minutes. Listen, you guys are going to a 12-step meeting tonight. You know, you can't say anything you want to say. You know, you don't want to, you know, whatever. You don't want to talk about this or that. You don't want to talk about your counselors or your girlfriend or boyfriend. You know, try to listen to what other people are saying. And maybe it's that one addict helping another addict. It's also people learn how to share. So the message becomes more pristine. You know? That's what I'm impressed with. I think that's a big step.
Okay.
And I think for me, I went to my first meetings in Los Angeles, Malibu, and in February 1993. I learned a lot from those meetings, but I think the fellowship in California has also probably changed quite a lot. I haven't been back on a regular basis for a long time, so I imagine everything changes, and that's what I think is great in NA in Denmark now. Is a much more tolerant time.
Yeah.
And I think recovery is stronger now, and I'm just so glad that we got it together to start that one in Aarhus.
Oh, without a doubt, you know, just sitting here at this clean cafe or seeing the fellowship in Esbjerg or clean time in Copenhagen or most cities have these clean cafe for recovering addicts. Nothing to do with the fellowship. And it's nice. It's actually really nice. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, great.
And thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Thomas.
you very much.
Did you want to film this?
Yeah, I want to film your book.
Well, I'm just going to go downstairs now. I have this.
I'm just going to change my telephone number. My car number.
I'll just be sitting talking to